All right, welcome to the show, everybody. I am still in Washington, D.C. I have an awesome show for you today, so going to kick it off with a hilarious segment. Somebody's brain broke trying to define wokeness. And get this, she wrote a book on wokeness. Amazing. So we'll talk about that. I also have some new internal text messages from Fox News, and they are even juicier than the last batch. You get a real sense of what the executives think of the Fox audience, and it ain't pretty. The Fed chair was absolutely pummeled and hammered and grilled over the fact that the open policy is we need to increase unemployment, so make millions more people unemployed in order to get inflation under control. That's a really, really good segment. And then later on in the show, we have Stephen A. Smith absolutely bodying Tucker Carlson in what was a very satisfying segment, if I don't say so myself. So let's start with this here. Bethany Mandel is an author. Apparently, she wrote the book Stolen Youth. Her lane is what you would call anti-woke. And she went on Rising, and Brianna Joy Gray asked her a very simple, very straightforward question. By the way, something that people generally haven't done in conversations about wokeness. Usually they talk about wokeness, nobody manages or nobody defines their terms. But Brianna Joy Gray goes, just so I know we're on the same page, can you define wokeness for me? And look at what happens.
And probably fewer of them consider themselves to be woke. And so, you know, when we talk about traditional...
What does that mean to you? Would you mind defining woke? Because it's come up a couple times, and I just want to make sure we're on the same page.
So, I mean, woke is sort of the idea that this is going to be one of those moments that goes viral. I mean, woke is something that's very hard to define, and we've spent an entire chapter defining it. It is sort of the understanding that we need to totally reimagine and redo society in order to create hierarchies of oppression. It's hard to explain in a 15-second soundbite.
Oh my God, that's so embarrassing. Oh, that's so embarrassing. I've told you guys for a long time now that, throwing the wet blanket of wokeness over any issue is the right's go-to move to sort of delegitimize everything they disagree with. So we've heard the minimum wage, raising the minimum wage is woke, unions are woke, universal health care is woke. And of course, my favorite recent one, this bank collapse brought about by deregulation and not diversifying or having a good business model. That's woke. The SVB crash was wokeness. That's what led to it. Those are so mind-numbingly stupid that I don't think people who are inside that bubble really grasp how dumb they look when they make an argument like that. And there's a lot of them who've been making that argument. Ron DeSantis made that argument. Donald Trump Jr. made that argument. There were Republican politicians who came out and made that argument. It is beyond embarrassing. You guys are a joke. So look, let's actually define the term. Let me give you two definitions. One of them will be like the steel manning the case definition, and the other one will be, I don't want to say straw manning the case, but I would say like a harsher definition of wokeness. So the good definition would be it's just being awake to injustice or alert to injustice. That's sort of the traditional idea when it came about however many years ago. If somebody said like stay woke, it means, hey, keep your eyes opened, stay enlightened, perceive injustice around you so we could try to fix it. That's the steel man version of what is wokeness. The harsher definition, so more with the negative connotation and implication, is that wokeness is authoritarianism in service of perceived social justice. So it's sort of like this idea that the ends justify the means if you do what you view as fighting for social justice. So just to give some examples of that, the classic example, of course, is censoring someone. They say something bad or mean or evil or racist or sexist or whatever according to your perception, and then you say, you know what, this person shouldn't be allowed to say it, and you try to get them censored. Getting somebody fired over things that fall into that category. Getting somebody banned over a joke. I mean, the go-to example that people use is comedians getting canceled is a clear example of wokeness gone too far. Getting a political college campus speaker kicked off from giving a speech because students don't want it because they don't agree with the speaker. That's a classic example of wokeness gone too far. Okay, you're probably noticing something at this point in the conversation. None of this stuff is overly complicated. It's actually very simple. It's actually very straightforward. But a person who wrote a book on wokeness being bad cannot define wokeness. She was stumbling and bumbling and you couldn't sum it up in a little soundbite. And the example she gave is wrong. Like, her definition was wrong. Redoing all of society. Blah, 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 blah. It's got nothing to do with any of that. But look, you'll notice something. Usually the harshest critics of wokeness are the ones who can't define it, because it's just become a catch-all for everything I don't like. Everything that's slightly left of Mussolini equals wokeness. That's where we are now. So look, we've hit peak wokeness phobia, if you ask me. Like, it's come on, it's on the decline now. It can't keep going at this pace because it's become embarrassing. It's become sad, and people always redirect every single issue back to it, and they can't even frickin' define it. And look, this is coming from somebody. You guys know me. I have no problem criticizing. If I think people on the left are acting in an authoritarian way, I'm against the authoritarianism by its very nature. So I'm going to call that out. I'm going to be against censoring people. I'm going to be against getting people fired. I'm going to be against getting people banned over a joke or whatever it is. But like, that is a reasonable anti-woke perspective. These people are not reasonable. You know what they realize? Here's the thing. They realized they were onto something because it became very popular to bash wokeness. And when that became super popular online and it became its own like genre, they realized, oh my God, we have a rare issue where we're seemingly on the winning side. Because the right generally isn't on the winning side, you know, especially the right-wing politicians. They don't want to raise the minimum wage. They don't want unions. They don't want universal health care. They don't want to get money out of politics. So lose. It's just down the lines, losses. They're, you know, the public is against them. They found one issue where they resonated. They struck a nerve. And they were like, oh, we're going to ride this bitch into the sunset. That's what we're going to do. We're just going to say everything is wokeness now that we don't like and bash it. And then hopefully people won't realize that we're playing a trick. It is a trick on them. It's a trick to try to gin up support for our colossally unpopular agenda. And so, look, massive props, massive shout out there to Brianna Joy Gray, because she really did, without even really trying, she was sincerely asking the question. She just ripped the mask off the whole game that they're playing, you know? And they're not sending their best, let's say. The anti-woke folks are not sending their best. And it's kind of embarrassing. It's kind of sad. It's kind of pathetic. And the final point I'll make is this. I wish the anti-woke people were principled in their opposition to authoritarianism, because they're only against authoritarianism towards the ends of social justice or perceived social justice. They are not against authoritarianism if it's in the interest of anti-wokeness. So, for example, great example, Ron DeSantis has gone on an anti-woke crusade where he's massively authoritarian in service of being anti-woke. So the same thing that's bad with quote-unquote wokeness, they have embodied as well, the authoritarianism. When you ban books left and right, and then, by the way, he lies about it and says, I'm only banning porn, little kids from seeing porn. That is fundamentally untrue. That is not true at all. We've seen the stories. Judd Legum over at Popular Info has done lists of like, hey, here are the books that are being banned. You got books that are about civil rights heroes. You got books that are about, you know, females who made it in a professional sport and their personal stories. You have well-known books that in no world is it inappropriate for anybody, and they're banning it. It's on the list of banned books. 600 books have been banned in Florida. And I haven't even gotten into the, anti-rioting law that DeSantis signed, which is really an attempt to crack down on all protest he doesn't like if it's for issues that he doesn't like. That's another example of authoritarianism in service of quote-unquote anti-wokeness. So you have this thing where it's become like a fundamentalist religion where you have people embracing authoritarianism because in their minds, the ends justify the means. But I'm here to tell you the ends don't justify the means, and authoritarianism is wrong by its very nature. And if you're embracing it for any perceived ideology, think again, because it's a bad idea, and it will always come back to bite you in the ass too. So there is no principle. The anti-woke people are just as authoritarian, if not more authoritarian, than the people they criticize. They've become the devil they're theoretically trying to avoid. But they don't care because, again, it's in favor of their agenda, which they view as right no matter what. So if we become authoritarian to defend our agenda, well, we're still the good guys. No, you're not. No, you're not at all. So anyway, great clip there from Brianna Joy Gray. By the way, have some fun. Next time you're in around somebody who's quote-unquote anti-woke, ask them to define it. You'd be surprised, man. I don't think any of them can give you a fair definition. Hey, y'all, do me a favor and like and subscribe. It helps out big time in the algorithm. Click the bell as well for notifications when videos drop, and watch that video on screen right now. You know you want to.